good morning all. So I'm glad everybody found their way over here. I was like, okay, how many people are going to show up at 8:30? How many people are going to go to the old location? And then how many people are going to get lost? Whoops.
Did you see
How many
that?
people are going to get lost while they're in here? Excuse me a second.
Give me a broken chair. So while Ernest is gone, did we get that on tape?
Let's try this one besides.
You're always trying to save a nickel, aren't you?
Exactly. There you go.
You want to test it?
That should be. Yeah. Listen, if I said it, this is going to go one way.
Yeah.
We still have, I think we're just working through all the systems. This, I was telling folks, we actually started this project after Labor Day. Completely got it and put it back. So this was an AT&T Bellsouth call center, had raised floors, and I think just the raised floors. This is amazing. I thought to myself, okay, this is good. All these metal guys are going to come by. It was $15,000 just to take the floors out. And I mean, each one of those things, it was a workout. I think one of those raised floor panels basically were about 25 pounds a piece. So, and then all the wiring and all the alarms. So just the demo basically was 3 weeks of the project, which is amazing. You think demo 3 days and go to it. But we kind of stripped it out and kind of put it back. But here we are. We have, just perspective, it's 14,000 feet. It's 22 offices in here, 24 companies operating, and we've got 2 staff members. And for a development guy, you have to appreciate that I'm disappointed where we have 8 companies that have requested to be in here in the last week. So we haven't even been all the way from Chicago, and we can't accommodate them. So I think from my standpoint, it proves out why we need the 92,000 feet up on Morrison Drive, so we can support companies all the way from single guy all the way to the big companies. So I thought it was interesting while this project was going on. First, I read an article about David Wise, who's the founder and CEO of Avoxy, president of Avoxy. And I'll talk about this company in just a minute. Had gone out and raised some money. Raised $10 million from a venture capital firm. And then just before the end of the year, I read that AJ had gone out and raised some money as well. So as busy as I was, I said, what's the topic we're going to have? And I said, okay, let's do one on the two companies in Charleston that have most recently raised money. And that's these 2 guys right here. And I was very fortunate, and I picked up the phone and called them, and both of them said yes, they'd be happy to do it. A lot of times when you raise money, you're traveling, staffing, you're busy, and this is the last thing on your mind. You're like, got to give a presentation. So then I had an opportunity. I've known Laura for years, and should I say Dr. Gomacho. And I just said, hey, Laura, I want to do this. It's unbelievable in terms of coaching and mentoring, creatives and technical professionals. And I said, can you just come in and lay the groundwork for, what the topic today, which is pitching. So let me just, so this is how we got here. And the other thing is, something that I want to do a little differently is I want to start focusing more on panels rather than individual presentations. Over time, I've learned that I think you get a little more out of a panel, and rather than pushing it from 8 to 9:30 into 10, I said, okay, let's pull it forward by a half hour, so 8 to 9:30. I think that's kind of helpful. We did a quick poll, and that's what people prefer. So Laura is a PhD who, as I said, she's obsessed, and I think obsessed would be an appropriate word, helping creatives and technical professionals flourish. And her way to flourish is economically thriving, or she calls it make bank. She believes that all conversation should be compelling and carried out with style and enthusiasm. Presentation, pitching is just one of these conversations. I mean, I think if you think about it, we're pitching all the time, something, right? Or as I like to say, selling. We're always selling something, even though we're not selling. So Laura's spent 10 years in academia and lived abroad in 3 different countries and has settled in Charleston. I'm glad you made Charleston your home. And creates quirky, interactive, and intense communications workshops and privately coaches executives to be more influential. In 2009, she formed Smithsonian Institute to share her communication expertise on building influence and having impact. Laura's also a member of the Forbes Council of Coaches and the National Academy of Inventors. AJ, right here to my left, is the technology-focused CEO based in Charleston. AJ graduated early from Phillips Exeter Academy to work on Capitol Hill at the Senate AR. His work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, Yahoo Finance, International Business Times, and Vogue. I didn't realize he's a model, so I got to ask him about him. After winning the New York State Business Plan Competition in 2015, AJ was named to the 40 Under 40 list, 40 Under 40 Technology Executive of the Year, and the best and brightest under 35, and I feel that's very, very much appropriate. AJ is currently on the board of Charleston Open Source and founded the Global Human Resource Conference, Disrupt HR in Greenville, which I didn't realize it. Sometimes Greenville never read this. So he volunteers as a mentor of the College of Charleston Impact X program and the Citadel's Bulldog Business School program. So it's great that you find time to do stuff in the community. David did go to graduate from Citadel. So David Wise is the CEO and founder of Avoxy. And I think this is kind of interesting. Talk about vision. Avoxy was founded in 2001 when less than 5% of the United States used internet-based voice communications solutions. He created the company to enable businesses of all sizes to leverage VoIP solutions, web solutions, and expand into international markets. Now, I'll tell you, this is a little, it's amazing how two guys can look like they're a 1,000-person company by just picking extension 482, which is what you can do under VoIP, but it's unbelievable. And he'll talk a little bit about that. David first began his career in the telecommunications industry at Intermedia Communications, where he served as senior account executive. Using the experience gained, using his experience he gained working with enterprise and wholesale accounts, David went on to form RapidLink, a leading provider of international callback and voice over IP VoIP services. As VP of Business Development for RapidLink, David helped the company grow annual revenues to over more than $50 million. He holds a bachelor's degree from the Citadel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it off to Laura, who will kind of get us rolling and set the stage for the topic today, which is all about pitching and successful pitching. And then what we're going to do, and for David and AJ, who haven't been here before, these are reasonably informal. So I guess AJ was asking, do I just kind of have my 30 minutes to talk? Let's just see how it goes. The whole idea is how did you get here? What were the things? What the lessons learned, and that kind of thing. So in a way, Laura's going to kind of curate how they kind of move along on educating us on what we need to be doing. Laura, thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's great to be here, and we're going to talk about pitching this morning. And I'm just going to share. I'm not going to talk 30 minutes. And you really want to hear from the guys who are raising millions of dollars. In fact, as you may know, AJ started pitching at age 18. When I was 18, I thought that pitching was something that baseball players do. So I'm the unpitching person who's learned the skill, learned to be personal. I'm the introvert. If I were independently wealthy, I would be an obese librarian, just reading books all day, reading bonbons. But life turned out differently, and I have, in fact, learned to pitch. And David has, I don't think he started as early as AJ, but has successfully raised a lot of money for his company. And I just want to share what I call the 3 fundamentals of pitching. They're not going to be surprising to you, but just like Ernest said, we're always pitching. We're always selling. It doesn't matter if you're the nerd of the nerds. You've got to sell your project, your ideas, and the people. This is the thing that opened my eyes. The thing is, when you're a good student in school, like I'm sure a lot of you were, you just do the work, you turn it in, you get an A, you get, oh, you're so good, this is great, 12, 14, 16, 18 plus years of that. That's how you think the world operates. And then, of course, in school I would notice these, with great disdain, these people, mostly boys, not all the time, who would sweet talk the teacher into getting extra credit and extensions. And then when I was on the teaching side of things, I was receiving those messages from different people who were often quite compelling. And then I would see that they went on to raise millions of dollars in the market and make a lot more money than a college professor. So that's my path. But really, everyone's pitching, and your success, no matter what you're doing, is going to be determined by how well you persuade people or influence people or pitch. And that's my first point. My second point, I'm going to start by telling a story, and it's about a tech company that you all know, some of you quite intimately. And whoever guesses what company I'm talking about, I want you to just shout it out. But this company was started by this guy. He started his path in 2002 by creating a game, and the game was called Never Ending Game. And he built it and pitched it and sold it, or people were using it, but the Never Ending Game actually did end. But in the process of building that game, he developed a photo sharing app, which became known as Flickr.
Slack.
Yes, that's right, Slack. So we're going to hear a little bit of the story of Slack. And Flickr was acquired by Yahoo, and this guy went to work with Yahoo, and then he left. And he started another company around, I think, 2008, 2009, called Tiny Speck, a game called Glitch. And he raised, a few years later, would raise money from two important investors, Andreessen Horowitz and Accel Fund. The game, the Glitch, kept growing, but never really made it. But these investors kept giving him more money and more money. And then eventually they closed Glitch but in the process of building Glitch, between the Canadian office and the US office, they developed this information sharing app, which we know today is Slack. And that company was born, I think, 2014. And these same investors invested in Slack that had invested in Tiny Speck and in the Glitch game. And my point is that investors or decision makers, they're always investing in you, the person, more than your concept. So these investors who are very savvy, they invested money in a game that failed, and yet they kept giving him money because they believed in what he was doing, the results he was producing. So realize that when you're trying to argue or present or pitch or sell, your concept is one thing, but the way you present it, that's revealing your thought process, your ability to get along with people, your confidence, how relaxed you are, and so forth. So my second point is that investors are investing in you, the person, more than what you're selling. And my third point is that whatever a successful pitch is always going to be oriented to the people you're selling to. Not all venture capital funds are the same. They have different priorities. And one thing that I learned from Jill Rowley at Mercado in California, show me that you know me. So one of the shortcuts to a successful pitch of any kind is showing the audience that you know them, that you have research, and you connect whatever you're selling to the priorities of the person that you're selling to. So, you know how when you go to networking events sometimes and people are like looking over your as you're talking, they're looking over their shoulder for someone better to talk to. So if that has never happened to you, I can tell you how to make it happen. And that is that you start pretending like you're a communication coach, and you start talking about communication skills, and you will find that conversation just ends, and that you would have to go talk to somebody else. So it's not, that topic in itself is not compelling, but I have learned to pitch it in different ways in order to succeed with my own company. So with that, I'll just hand over to David to tell his story of the real world pitching for real money.
Cool. Thanks, Ernest, for having us, and Laura, thanks for sharing that. It's a really good way to come at it. It really is about people are investing in people, and so I appreciate that. Thanks for everybody for being here on this chilling mornings. I'm David Wise. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Obviously graduated from the Citadel. After I got out of Citadel, I took off, went to Colorado for 9 months and just decompressed after being locked up. So it was a great experience. The thing I learned at the Citadel is it built a lot of confidence in me to be able to do things that I didn't know that I could do. So got out of the Citadel. Give a lot of credit to my dad. He's Charlestonian. Some of you guys may know him. He was a lawyer here in town. He was also a politician. We won't hold that against him. But he was also an entrepreneur and had a bunch of different businesses as a kid growing up. He had an oil company and he just had a bunch of different businesses that he owned along the way. So I saw that. He modeled that to me and my brother, both of which today, our brother has a very successful consulting business that he runs out of Atlanta as well, which is where my company's headquartered. But he had instilled a good work ethic in myself and my brother, and then going to the Citadel built my confidence, and got to see some people model leadership and what that was really about. And so fast forward, came back. In my previous company, I was traveling a lot, and I saw a lot of American companies setting up operations overseas, and saw a need to build communication solutions for them. So we started doing that in 2001. My investment hypothesis was really to build a cash flow, and we did that very successfully, and didn't bring any outside investment, bootstrapped it, and I was the sole owner of that company up until 2015. I saw that the come on in. We have room. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
In 2015, there was a number of different things, but got led down and introduced to a gentleman who very successful serial software executive out of Atlanta, and realized that there was an opportunity to build something more unique and much more valuable. And he convinced me that it was an opportunity for me to change my investment hypothesis from what people will term a lifestyle business to more of a going for equity and trying to build up the capital value of the company. And a lot of things needed to change, and one of those was me in a lot of ways, and learning about software. And I brought this guy in he became a shareholder, he became a mentor in the company, and I'm deeply grateful for that guy. His name's Wayne Kellum. Super guy, very helpful to me in so many ways. He's still involved in the company, he's still a shareholder today. But that introduced me into how to create the next value prop of the business. And so we really reinvented ourselves. So we had all these customers that we still have a lot of them today that are global companies operating some type of call center, either inbound or outbound call center, serving customers in other countries. So most of our customers are selling some type of consumer goods, so they could be selling, coffee cups to people in another country, or cool vacuums in Australia, but they're call centers in the United States, or in Singapore, somewhere around the world. So we started building our software and our value prop around how do we help them operate more efficiently. We're a profitable company. When I brought the guy in as a shareholder, he bought into the company, didn't put money in, but just bought shares. And so we took the money the company was making and really started working on our product and what we could build, and shaping that over about 2.5 years. It took us to really develop and refine what we wanted to do. And along the way, I had a number of people come and want to give us money. And it wasn't, so I'll back up. There's all different, my thinking in taking money and bringing it into the company is, you first have to start with, how much money do you want? And that really starts with, well, how much money do you think you need to get an investor return that they're going to be interested in? Typically, my experience has been, at least in the tech space, is investors want to get 3 to 5 times their money minimum over 3 to 5 years. And so you back into that equation and say, all right, how much money do I need to create a 3 to 5 times exit for someone in 3 to 5 years? And so that's kind of the number one thing you need to understand. And then understanding there's different types of investors at different levels. There's guys, I'll say guys, people that write $1 million or less checks, people that write 1 to 5, people that write 5 to 25, and on up. So there's different classes of investors, and talking to them all in different ways. Some people, don't invest in pre-revenue. Some people want $1 million in revenue. So that's all things you need to figure out when you're out there looking for an investor, which is not so much about pitching, but it is about knowing who your audience is. If you're talking to a guy that writes $25 million checks and you need $1 million, it doesn't go very far. And I've pitched and talked to probably, 50 different investors along the way. And so that's a whole nother part of the job of a CEO. So you've got how much do you want to raise, types of investors, and then what else can the investor do for you? There's money, and then there's other things that come. So, what I was looking for in an investor was someone who can help bring talent to the table. Typically, these investment companies have been, if they're good, they've been successful in other companies, so they know operators, they know VP of marketing, chief operating officers, chief technology officers, they know, super talented people, and that's a big part of it. As a CEO, your job is building the team, and if you can get people that are super talented and come with a rubber stamp on them, all the better. And so an investor can do that. I wanted an investor also that understood what I did. So had invested in communications, had invested in software. So you got the talent side of it, you got their understanding, and then their connections, right? How many companies are they invested in? It's kind of a smaller thing, but can they bring me business? And then looking at their Rolodex of contacts that they have. And so really my job now is, and I tell them this so they know, I try and squeeze everything I can out of them. Not money, but just contacts and talented people. And they also have analysts that can help build data models around forecasting and things like that. So that was really helpful. And so I'm telling you a little bit more than my story, but so back to my story, 2015, got a guy involved, hadn't taken any money, very profitable. And it was really about when do we take money, and bringing this guy Wayne in, he immediately had folks that were ready to give us a check. And I was like, not yet. Not only, how much money you need, but when to take it. Go as far as you can without taking money. Because you give up, and there's nothing wrong, it's great, but you want to make sure what you're trying to do is raise the value of your stock. I'm no longer a lifestyle business. I'm not kind of what I call clipping coupons, taking money out every month. It really is about investing back in. So building the value of the company up before I took money. And I also wanted to have metrics that, I can put on a screen in a boardroom, and that's what you're investing in, and you want to see something that's got a lot of trajectory to it as much as you can. And so that took us some time and work, and wanted to make sure we shaped that before we did. So I had a number of people that were coming to me wanting to give us money, which is a unique thing. But that was because of Wayne's relationship and him almost as an investor. He does a lot. He's a CEO, but that was also very helpful. Deeply grateful to that guy and getting him involved. And so, as a personal mentor, and then he's obviously a board of director of the company. Fast forward a couple of years, we started seeing some trends in our business that got us super excited. We know there's a bigger opportunity for us. And so last year, again, I had unsolicited, someone came to us and said, we'd love to meet you. We hear good things. Come down to Florida. And so I went down there. It was literally a year ago this month, and met with them and their board. And they're like, after meeting, they're like, here's a term sheet. And so we looked at it, and it's like, okay, how do I know? How do I compare? I don't have anything to compare it to. So I spent some time doing some homework and talking to other people, and ended up getting 7 other term sheets in that process because of that one. I wanted to be, at the end of the day, make sure I looked back and said, okay, I did what was in the best interest of the company. And not for the best deal, but a really good deal. I wanted to feel good about taking money from someone that it was the right value. And that's important. That's kind of a little bit of a subjective thing. Not so much in my space because there's some pretty good data around it. But we spent a year, one, making sure that was true. We knew we didn't need money right away, but we wanted to at some point in the future. And it was 12 to 18 months out. We knew we needed to do that. And and I also wanted you to get to know these guys because you're, I hate to use the word married, but they're minority shareholders in the business, but they get a lot of say in what you can and can't do and how you operate the business. And so you want to make sure that's gels. You want to make sure in board meetings they're supportive and encouraging and helping you think bigger about the business. But so and maybe a little more than you were asking.
No, I think that's great, and it shows the importance of doing your homework. It's always and with some humility, because it's not, you just come in, even though you were so successful in these other businesses, you always did your homework and checked out other things, and people were investing in you.
Yeah, it really is, and now my as important to me as the business succeeding, it is now about I want to make those guys a bunch of money. I'm a pretty young guy, and so I want to go and do it again. And not that we're getting out of this business anytime soon, but that's a big part of it as well. Is I don't want to be at odds with them. I want them to make a ton of money and really focus. If they make money, I'm going to do really well in that process. And so it's important. They can also be, at some point, I think we'll look at potentially bringing more money to the table, and they're going to be the ones either bringing that person to the table or they're going to be writing that check. So it is important to spend some time and get to know them. I had a lot of opportunities before these guys, the people that just gave me term sheets, and I was like, yeah, it didn't feel right. And so that was my experience. But now that it's, we've done it behind us, it's super time consuming, and but it also is a huge game changer for us and what we can do now that we couldn't before. So it was one of the best Christmas holidays I've ever had because we closed on December 3rd. And it was very relaxing and super excited about what we're going to do going forward. So, yeah.
I like it. Hi everyone. My name's AJ. I think one thing that I really admire about David, and I've told you this a lot of times, is how authentic he is. Whether you're talking to him here or talking about a coffee shop or talking to him in a boardroom. And I think that to me is the most important thing when raising any money is authenticity. So I'll kind of start and I'll end with a story that kind of plays more into that. But as Ernest mentioned, I've been working on projects for a long time. I'm on my second project right now. We started in 2016, where we tried to figure out with data why the best quarterbacks in college football didn't become the best NFL quarterbacks. So it was always amazing to me, like, how can Brady Quinn break like 46 records at Notre Dame and become a bust in the NFL? Or how does Johnny Manziel or Vince Young go on and do amazing things in college, but once they get to the NFL, they just cannot make it work. They can't last more than 3 or 4 seasons and certainly don't have much success there. And so we turned to science and my background in AI to build algorithms to be able to predict empirically, like, hey, this is the reason why Tom Brady's great, and these are the reasons why Johnny Manziel and Vince Young just can't be an NFL quarterback. And a lot of it isn't anything to do with their physical acumen, but rather like what's inside of them, right? Like what their mental makeup is. Like Tom Brady has the perfect mental makeup for an NFL quarterback. He does not have any physical skills. He is 41 and he was, but somehow 32 NFL teams with a salary cap of $155 million passed on him 6 times in the NFL draft. 6 times. Dropped to the 199th pick. I'm like, how does that happen? And so we were able to prove it with technology that's called Sentio now, where we help people match candidates to companies. So we started in sports, saw a ton of success working with professional teams, college teams, and we took on an investor, the owner of the Colorado Rockies in 2016, who really enjoyed the project, saw the value of the data we were providing, and said to us, hey, sports are cool, sexy on a spreadsheet, but there's 150 professional sports teams for your total available market. There's 27 million small businesses that you can help. And so we transitioned into companies where we now help companies decide who to hire using artificial intelligence and a science called psycholinguistics to match people to cultures and be able to predict in the screening process who's going to be a top performer in your company and your culture specifically. And we started at a gig model basis in 2016/17, where we'd go to a company, we'd ask them, hey, do you have any positions that you need to fill? We'd hold their hand throughout the process, try to test out the tech, try to validate it with case studies, and really get people comfortable with using artificial intelligence in a very human process, right? Human resources. And we got the metrics we wanted. We hit the revenue numbers, and in 2000, or did that for a while. In October 31st, we closed on a round with Venture South, which is an angel group here in South Carolina with a $750,000 round, which is great. It's still open, and we're taking on some more money right now, which is really exciting. But now we took that money and we converted it to the platform to a self-service automated SaaS model. So now instead of us having to go to your company and ask you like, hey, do you have any positions open, and help you fill them, a HR manager from Boise, Idaho can go to Sentio, put in their credit card, and start using the technology today. And that's what the money was able to do, was help us convert a gig internal machine into a fully automated software solution for companies of all sizes all over the country. And our goal this year is to hit 1,000 customers. So growth has been very good. The money has been able to has allowed us to hire really great talent, to actually put more than $10 into marketing spend, and just grow here in Charleston, South Carolina, which we love doing. But back to the authenticity point. So it's a unique story, but I actually started my first tech company out of a dorm room in high school. And when you're young and you're trying to pitch tech, it can be very, very challenging. Not only because a lot of people won't take your meetings, a lot of people just look at you like you're their son, or like you're their son's friend, or like you're their nephew or something, or niece. You're oftentimes tempted to become greater than you are in meetings, right? So you want to wear like the best clothing, and you want to say the biggest words, and you want to come across as so professional. And it's like when you see an 8-year-old kid in a suit, and you're like, that makes you look like you're 4, not 8, because it's oversized, and you could tell that you're uncomfortable, right? And it wasn't, and so it's a long story, but basically I told my parents I wasn't going to go to college, and I was going to start this tech project. I was going to raise the money, and hey, I'm not going to go to university. And that was a big deal in my household. My parents worked really, really hard so I could have a world-class education, and I just left a boarding school that sole purpose was basically to get kids into Harvard. So I told them that, and they said, okay, you take 1 gap year. If you don't raise money, you have to go to school. So I said, okay. And so there was a lot on the line for me at the time, because my pride, but also the business. And I got an invitation. I was making so many phone calls. I was writing handwritten letters. I was LinkedIn requesting everybody. I was spamming every person I thought that could fund $100,000 into my project at the time. And eventually I got a call back from somebody who was very, very influential in the business community. I'm not going to say their name, but they live in the penthouse of the Bloomberg building. So these are like, if you had to pick 3 people to work with in the world, this person would most likely be one of them. And they actually called me back, because I called them 1,000 times and I wrote letters. And I told them in a letter, I said, I am not going to stop until you call me back. And they did, which was cool. And I was so nervous. And up until that point, I'd probably been rejected by 50 angels. And it was a really challenging time for me. I couldn't really figure out who I wanted to be in business. And I couldn't figure out like how I came across as authentic while also making people believe that my idea would actually work. And so when I was in that presentation, I'm passing Beyonce and Jay-Z in the lobby of this building. I go up the elevator with Derek Jeter's girlfriend, and I walk into this, you open the elevator and it's just their apartment because they have the whole floor. And I knew then that I was going to be nervous, right? Like I was sweating bullets, and I thought, frankly, that it was going to be an office. I didn't even know it was going to be this person's apartment. And I sit at the kitchen counter, and he goes, "Okay, give me a presentation." I'm like carrying a projector on my arm because I'm hoping like I can do it. And I'm in a suit way too big for me. My shoes are way too expensive for me and stuff like that. And I stumbled through the entire presentation. And like I'm a technical product CEO, so typically I'm not good at decks. But I was even stumbling like on the product, and I knew it was going horribly. And he stopped me, and he said, "Take a deep breath, AJ. Like it's okay." And I was like, "No, like I feel like I blew it. Like I'm 18 years old, I'm about to cry in this guy's kitchen." And he's like, "I'm gonna give you the money." I was like, "Really? Why?" He was like, "Because I can tell how nervous you are, that I want to work with you. Because you care so much about this project that I know you're not a good presenter. It's just not who you are. I know what you're good at, and this doesn't play to your skill set, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get funded for your project." And that meant a lot to me. And he gave me really good advice. He goes, whenever you go into a presentation, think of it like your first date with that person. Because although you are supposed to impress them, you don't want to put off a different vibe than what you're going to be like for the rest of your life and rest of your relationship with that person. Because as David said, you're going to have your pick. If you can raise money with one VC or one angel, you can probably raise it with a lot of people. And you, as the entrepreneur, have as much of a chance to pick what investor you want to work with than they get to pick with you. And so it was really important to me because up until that point, I wasn't being authentic, and now I know that it's important because I'm going to be working with that person, not just today or tomorrow or through due diligence, but also 2 years from now, 4 years from now. And I want to be able to call them in the middle of the night, and if they think that like I'm some savvy sales guy, then the relationship's going to be built on mistrust and frankly just false information. And so to be yourself and be authentic, do the right things, like speak clearly, be confident, make eye contact, all that good stuff. But if you're introverted like me, don't be afraid to show that side and just be who you are through that process. So there's no surprises later on, which I think David really touches into well. So that's my favorite part.
Cool.
That sounds
Yeah, I thought now we would talk about, because people are always asking me, I'm sure they ask, like, what are the biggest mistakes that you see? Like overall, what I see is overall pitching, that the biggest mistake is just throwing out too much information, too many details, and just think about it. If you were going to put together a Picasso exhibition in a museum, you wouldn't just go find every single Picasso painting that he ever did. There's hundreds or thousands of those. You have to curate. You have to really curate, and of course what you curate depends on your audience, what you're going to emphasize. Of course, at the end of the day, you can bomb, and like AJ did, and you still get the money because you believe in what you're doing, and you come across as a committed person. Plus, I think in AJ's case, he had shown so much tenacity that he was stalking this guy and not going
Pursuing.
Sorry. It was like either I need to get another bodyguard or see AJ. So it worked out for him. So why don't y'all share, like, either not maybe if you want to share any mistakes that you've made, or like the mistake that you see out there when people are pitching. Either one of you.
So for me, it went down to figuring out how much money I wanted and talking to the right people. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that are eagerly looking, right now at least, that are eagerly looking to put money to work. And the key is understanding who fits in that space and who doesn't, and then really building a relationship with them. And if they understand the business as well, I found that I've talked to a bunch of different people. If they don't understand the communication space, it probably doesn't go real well.
But can you find that out before you talk to them?
Yeah, you can. I mean, most of these companies have websites and they have investment criteria, and you just kind of do a little research on them and spending time narrowing it down up front. Here's exactly what I want, the amount of money that's going to take to get to 3 to 5 times value for that money in 3 to 5 years. And that's kind of number one. And then finding companies that write that size check. That's that other criteria I go back to. And then identifying those companies. And there's some great tools out there. You can find that online. I pitched at Venture Atlanta, which was a great exercise a couple of years ago, and had a number of people. And I was just doing it for practice, really.
Well,
I wanted
that's
to
good.
see. I wanted to see. So if you get a chance to do one of those ventures deals, it's great. And then, what's important to people is it really goes back to they want to. And maybe I'm in a little different situation because I have a business where several thousand customers. We have a model that's going already, and if it's me looking backwards, I would bootstrap it as far as you can, get revenue going. If it's pre-revenue, then it really is about finding people that write pre-revenue checks and write on ideas and want to do that. It doesn't matter where you are in terms of that size, but how much money do you need? Who are the people that write those checks? Go and find them, and then see if you can build a relationship. And I think the authenticity of it really is key. And people do invest in people, and the guys that invested in us they were investing in me really, and the management team, not just me, but we had a deep bench of people that have experience, and they checked us all out. So, yeah.
You want to share
What's the question?
mistakes? I mean,
Oh,
wearing
man.
clothes that
Well,
don't fit.
I
is
can make a
mistake.
bunch of mistakes.
Yeah. I think understanding the process is really important. So a lot of times when you go out and raise money, you think it's going to be done in 30 days, and it
Yeah.
always takes so much longer than that because it's not just first meeting; it's getting in front of the partners, and if they like it, they present it to their partners. Then you have to come back, and then due diligence is very long. Some people do term sheet before due diligence, some do it after, and raising money typically takes between 6 months and 9 months. Not 60 days and 90 days. And so just keeping up, trying to run your business while raising money is an incredibly difficult thing. And if you allow the fundraising to completely consume your everyday work, then you're not going to get anything done because there's an unlimited amount of VCs, there's an unlimited amount of angels, there's an unlimited amount of phone calls, due diligence, things that you can do. And just being able to be really disciplined as to this is what I want to accomplish with VCs today, and this is what I want to accomplish to work. Because a lot of times it can stop or slow down your momentum pretty significantly as a business.
I think, David, you had alluded to this. So what I see locally is a lot of very talented folks, who. So you mentioned that they're buying you,
Mm,
and firsthand, I'll tell you, I did that. I bought the entrepreneur until the entrepreneur got divorced,
mm,
and then he went from being a good guy to being a horribly bad guy because he was being managed by his wife. And when that went south, so in hindsight, there are companies that deserve because of the technology that's being deployed in the company to raise $1 million. But when you start peeling the layers back, there's no management team there, and the CEOs don't understand that. He just said he's a technical guy, he's the introvert thinking, and he's got a team. But how important is the team? Because from losing money in some of these companies, which I've invested in on my measly salary, that's the first thing I look for. Who is part of that team?
Yeah.
Besides, because there's always one that can pitch it real well, is trustworthy, he's got all the characteristics you look for, but there's 3 people around him who may not be the best or non-existent.
right.
So can you talk about that?
Yeah.
How
So
that-
for me, like I didn't, the job of a CEO, and especially when you're starting a business, going from 0 to however many employees, I found myself firing myself along the way of a lot of different jobs that I did. which is rewarding in some ways. In some ways, it's like I enjoyed some of that stuff. But when once I identified a handful of investors that were interested and quote unquote pre-qualified them that they wanted to fit. For me, that it was really just about getting them in front of the team that I work with, the people. So I hate to say that on camera, but like I didn't do it, that my team did. And I got some really good people that I work with that I brought along because they're investing in me, but they're investing in that team and they want to know. It provides another level of assurity for their return on investment. And so one of the things that I did when we had these meetings, I was there with head of marketing and bringing in my technologist, and so it's not me answering the questions. Hey guys, what do you think? And they get to see the depth of the bench and see what we have, and then things we didn't have. We don't have a CFO. I've got a controller, and I don't need one right now. But that was one of the things that they knew coming into it, and that's an important part of the business, but not necessary at this moment. So.
Yeah, and I think too, when you're early stage like we are, it's impossible to have like the perfect CFO, perfect CTO, perfect CEO, and so. What I would recommend, what we did really well, I think, especially in the investment process, is we had a really strong board of advisors.
Yeah.
So people from Charleston, who one of the things I love about Charleston is it seems like you can touch almost anybody with only 2 phone calls, not 100 letters, which is really nice. And surrounding yourself with people who you can rely on, ask questions to, and really entrust in difficult situations. And so when just because it's maybe just you or just 2 people, it doesn't mean you have a small team. Like there's a lot of passionate people in the community who want to help and have the expertise you need. So I would just recommend in that situation to start building that board, get people that you trust, bring them out for coffee every once in a while and just pick their brain and get smarter every single day. Because a lot of times there's no substitute for experience. And, I'm 24, so yeah, I gotta wait 20 years until I get any real experience. So I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, that brings up a good point about Charleston, how we're such a small community compared to, say, New York. So what do you 2 of you think about the tech scene here as far as being local to Charleston versus regional versus national? Like, where do you see our community in the tech industry? What's your experience? I know you have, both of you have connections and business outside of Charleston. So talk a little bit about that.
Want me to take this first?
Sure.
So I came down from New York, and as I was saying before, one of the things I love about Charleston is accessibility to leadership and mentors, which I think is really unique to here, is that there's a lot of community ownership. There's a lot of opportunity to reach out and get really good guidance. I would say from a fundraising perspective, being at Charleston does not hurt your chances of getting funding if you hit the correct metrics. So I am a firm believer that if you build a very strong, sustainable business with, like in SaaS, ARR, really good revenue numbers, really smart, interesting people, that you'll find money. Whether that's from Florida, from Atlanta, from San Fran, from New York. The tech is getting so accessible to all communities across the country that you don't have to be in a hub to get funding. If you have a strong business plan, money will find you. And once you get 1 term sheet, it turns to 2, it turns to 4, it turns to 8. It just gets a lot easier, from my perspective.
Yeah, so for me, Charleston was dad, brother, stepmom, attorneys, and building this business. I knew I wanted to find a way to give back. I love working with other people and sharing with them my experience, and it's really a part of how I get better when I do that. And so, but in Charleston, I wanted to be a part of the tech community. I wanted to give back. Charleston's done a lot of great things for me and helped me in my career and my family life. And so we decided to make our innovation center here. Headquarters of companies in Atlanta. I'm here. We've got, development team, engineers, programmers here in Charleston, and wanted to be a part of that. I do think our business can grow, is on a path to grow to be a significant entity is it's not going to be the next benefit focus, maybe, or Blackbaud, but we do have a pretty cool marketplace, and it's really big, and so felt like I'd be a part of that. And in Atlanta, there's a ton of technologists, and there's a ton of opportunity there, but it's, for me, it was really about trying to be a part of the Charleston community and help build that technology movement. We brought a lot of cool people and continue to bring a lot of cool people to Charleston. Sorry for all the traffic, I get it, but I got numbers I got to meet. So, anyways, yeah. So
when y'all are pitching or talking to people outside of Charleston, like in San Francisco or New York or Austin, like how is Charleston perceived by these other people? Like, what do you pick up on that?
My personal experience has been great because of people like David. So you have these mature companies bringing in investors from all over the country, right? So you have like Boomtown, Fish Labs, of course, Benefit Focus and Blackbaud, but also like Ceteris just raised a big round. And so we're able to say, hey, we're from Charleston, South Carolina, and that firm's typically like, oh, is that where Avoxy's from? Is that where Ceteris is from? And because of their leadership and their community involvement, like it's really paved the way for entrepreneurs in the next generation like us to come in and get money easier and faster than ever before.
And David, as the rare breed of native Charlestonian, how does that play out when you're outside of the area? Do you get any kind of bonus points?
I don't know that I get any bonus points for that. I do think that Charleston and all the work Ernest has done and so many other people in the community have done to put a spotlight on it. Charleston is really set on a path that I don't think you could slow it down in terms of building technology here in Charleston and attracting more talent and carving out and really creating Charleston as a great hub. I think we got a lot more work to do. We've got to help make sure all the entrepreneurs that are out there have the support they need to really grow their businesses. And it is about building people around them and also about having investors. Aileron Partners, I don't see any of them here, but that's a great group of guys that are very supportive and bringing, helping invest in companies in Charleston. And I think they're committed to the Charleston community in that way. So,
a friend of mine had her career in Silicon Valley said that the investors really want to have the companies close by so they can keep an eye on them. And she thought it was a disadvantage for money outside of the state because of that not being able to keep an eye on what's going on with the business. Does that resonate or depends on the investor?
Not really. These guys, Ballast Point Ventures, who we took the money from, Paul Johan, super savvy guys. Their focus is the Southeast, and so they get on a plane and they travel. We meet in Atlanta, so it's easy to get there. But I've had a ton of people from California. Once you take money, you show up on a radar, and so tons of people from California that want to know about our business and are already like, I'm already kind of farming those relationships for another round of investment if we need it. We've got a pretty good path and have everything we need right now, but I haven't heard people
Say
bring that as a concern.
I don't know.
So
I also think that like we work with Venture South and we're so grateful for them, and that process of working with an angel group really became so easy because of them. And as David mentioned, when you take money, you get kind of just put on the national circuit almost. Like you get put up on Crunchbase, and then there's like an array of spammers that start coming after you saying, hey, do you need this, or this, all that you just raised money. And frankly, there's so many VC funds, so many growth equity funds that those that won't work with companies outside of their state or outside of their region, it's just white noise to me. They're just not prospects. And, the ones that want to work with companies from out of state or in South Carolina, they present themselves to you, or in a quick phone call, you can determine if that's one of the things they want for their LPs and then move on to the next one if that's not the case.
So it's really just
Yeah.
I think, Laura, your friend's assessment might have been true 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's what's interesting, and this is playing out. So this is not just about basically investment, this is also about talent, right? So what we're seeing and what we're positioning ourselves for are global and national companies that are finding the unicorns, irrespective of where they are, and standing up expansions based on that unicorn or two. So I'll give you a good example of that. Barnes McLaurin used to work for Blackbaud, one of the top guys. He decided to leave. Today we have a 20-person workday team that nobody's aware of. And Barnes lives downtown. He says, I can't wait for the new building because I can just kind of ride my bike over the new building. But I think the point to be made is that Workday doesn't have a single customer that is being serviced by Barnes. They service the Southeast from Charleston because he was the one they went after. So we have Workiva, it's a publicly traded company out of Iowa. The CEO was in here the other day, and I'm having these conversations, with the gentleman who runs the office here, and he says, I'll be leaving. And I thought it was really refreshing. A publicly traded company, and Marty says to me, take care of that guy because he's going to be leaving and he's going to build an amazing company in Charleston. Clemson grad, went to California, went to Iowa, went to New York, and so I don't even think he's 40, so he's here. So I think that thinking, that you got to go there. I always tell people, listen, capital is very opportunistic. They're looking for how to make money, and they're going to go where the money is. The other thing is, I think from a perception standpoint, to what you asked earlier, when you grow from 17 companies to 450, to David's point, it's absolutely sustainable. If we went away tomorrow, the economy's not going away tomorrow. So that's the thing is, there may have been that pivot point where you can fall back. But the reality, if an entity stands up today and they're gone tomorrow that supports the economy, who cares? Because the economy is now the business.
Right.
The business, your success is not conditioned about what organizations like us do. It's what they're doing, and you're just supporting them.
Right.
So I think that's what you got to get. And I think that's where we are. Is the companies are very successful. Any success of the CDC is not the CDC success; it's the community success. And we just happen to be an entity that kind of, or the guy at the train station, like, you know where you're going. You're just asking him, hey, is this the train?
Right.
That kind of thing. So I think it's the other thing is to AJ's point, we now have random calls, from venture firms to say, hey, can you let us know the 5 companies that you might want us to talk to? And David's Ballast Point is an investor in 2 other projects in Charleston. So they know Charleston and they've experienced success, and it's positive to his point. If you make them a lot of money, they're looking back. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing what you can't do is you can't, talk about authentic. That model applies to CDC model. There's a lot of noise in this market right now. And, the BS meter is very high with these folks, and they'll tune you out very quickly. So you got to be authentic, and I'm happy to represent. It's a work in progress. We're a 20-year economy in tech. So let's not think we have figured it all out.
Right.
We're just getting started, but I think it's pretty solid, and that's why I think it's kind of helpful. So from a pitch standpoint, people are coming and talk to us, and we're saying, look at this company, look at this company, look at this company, and make your own decisions.
Right.
And in all my years of fundraising, not that long, but I've never been asked by a VC firm in San Fran, New York, Boston, Chattanooga to relocate to them. And I think that that's a misconception because if you were to pick up and move your business to a new ecosystem, then they're introducing a variable that they might not be comfortable with, right? So you have some success where you are, the people you're building clearly are working, you have local customers, you're involved in the community, and all of a sudden they put in $1 million and they want to pick you up and move you to a whole new system, a whole new stack, like a whole new people, a whole new ecosystem. I think it would be very challenging for any business to do that. And if they're putting their hard-earned money into moving an entire business, it's a new variable.
Yeah, too many variables. Do y'all have any questions before? Really, the value is, is there anything that you want to know from these super smart, successful business people to apply to your own situations or things that you know about?
I have a question. David, the round of funding is coming your way. What are you going to do with the money? hiring more people? Are you
Yeah.
marketing more?
Yeah, go faster. So we've put together a plan. Really, and we're investing in across the whole business: sales, marketing, product, engineering. So, yeah.
Not one specific area, just
No, we're pretty metrically obsessed as an organization, and so we can see where, where the business is going in so many ways and things we need. There are some strategic investments we're going to make and new things that we aren't doing today that we'll start doing, but it's not. The money was really used to kind of sprinkle across the whole business, and so, depending on how those things move, we'll put more money in different places. And yeah, we're going to hire people, no doubt about it. We've added a number of folks this year already. So here in Charleston, but also in Atlanta. So yeah.
Just both of you guys talk about the reporting side of when you take external funds.
Yeah.
I'm just the frequency of reporting. Obviously, David, in your case, you've taken on board member.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure AJ, in your case, you've taken somebody from Venture South as well. Can you just speak to the external reports that you have to provide to these investors and the frequency?
So that was one of the big kind of qualifiers for me is like I didn't, getting to know people in the due diligence process. It was really because there's like a million different metrics, and the key is for us we have some primary key metrics, and I got about 42 that I can look at any given time that are updated to really see what's going on in the business. That's what I'm going to use to run the business. Shared them with them, and we'll share them with them ongoing. Some of them are in real time. Some of them are, monthly packages that we'll share with folks. But and we've been doing it for a while and have experience around doing that. So I kind of checked the box. But that was one of the things. I wasn't looking for somebody to come in and tell me how to run my business. Change this reporting, change that reporting. It's a minority investment. If they're a majority, it's a different deal. Like I'm working for them, but that wasn't the case. And so I qualified that real quickly, and it was like, here's how we do it. Is this? It wasn't a discussion. It was more like, here's how I do it.
Yeah. So we do daily metrics that's available to everybody who's a shareholder. So with us, we're a data-driven business, and we're all self-service SaaS. So there's really only like 4 metrics that matters. It's how much it costs from like a LinkedIn ad or Google AdWord to our homepage, conversion from homepage to free sign up, conversion from free sign up in 14 days to a paid subscription. And how much does that cost, and how much is the lifetime value of the customer? So if X is greater than Y, you have a problem. If Y is greater than X, you have a really, really great business. And so as we continue to fundraise, because as soon as we close this round, although it's my job to build a sustainable business, you get a lot of attention, and you start getting round A, round B investors reaching out to you, and you start thinking, when are we going to take on the next big round? When are we going to take on the $3 to $5 million? And we want to give our shareholders, because they put the hard-earned money in, access to all of our information so they can share it with investors, they can have it for their internal use, and they can just be comfortable saying, hey, these people are working, these are the metrics, and they're trying to act as fiscally responsible as possible. So we try to be as transparent as possible.
Ted?
Maybe a little different direction. The metrics obviously are the foundation, but I think, in fact, a couple of you have spoken of authenticity, and I think values is so important now more than it used to, and both from a customer point of view, from an investor point of view, and partners. How do you get alignment with investors about values? How do you hear stories about the investors seem great, there seem to be strong alignment, 3 years go on, maybe the original metric isn't hit, and then there's pressure to do more data mining and leveraging your customer data in ways maybe the customers wouldn't like and things like that. How do you kind of do both? How do you have these great metrics that you have to have because that's business?
Yep.
So then how do you have the culture and the values toward employees, toward customers, etc.? And how do you maintain it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. It's a really important question too. So as I was mentioning before, if you have a good business, investors most likely won't be that difficult to find. Trust me, it's a process and it can be challenging. But I think it's the entrepreneur's job to flesh out and really test the investors' values, what their goals are on a professional, where like what they are responsible for their LPs, but also on a personal level. So go out to dinner with that person, try to meet their family, and try to really learn about them at an intimate level, so that when you're in very difficult situations, like I don't hit my mark, or he can't raise, or she can't raise round A for me. In challenging situations, you make sure that your core values align, just to avoid a lot of uncertain and difficult times.
So, investors are not operators. I don't want an investor that was an operator. And there's only one CEO, and the CEO sets the values of the company. And I'm, as I mentioned earlier, I started working when I was 12 years old, and have had a job ever since. So, not afraid of hard work. I like people that like to work hard. It's not that we don't like hard work. And so, me, I'm kind of obsessed with like making things better and figuring out what am I missing. I ask that, it's called the Socratic question. It's like, what am I missing? And always ask myself that and think about it. And so, I want people that align around that want to be like obsessed with whatever their, part of the business is, that they really take pride and ownership in just incrementally making it better. And we give everybody their own kind of their own measurement. We can't go compete with our competitor and see their numbers because they're private companies. So I don't know if I'm better than them or not, but we can compete with ourselves, and not among ourselves, but with ourselves. So we don't have a competitive spirit between departments. It's really about, those managers that are leading those areas of the business competing with what they did last month. So that's really the culture that I've created. I'm a pretty glass half full guy. I do feel very lucky and blessed. I don't wake up every day and think, why does this happen to me? It's like, and for me, crisis creates opportunity. I mean, we all know it's like these gray hairs didn't come because it was, every day people were wiring me $10 million. And so, like, that's kind of my mentality. And I do not, I don't want that to change while I'm running the business. That's just how I set it. And so.
I have something to add. I think that's a really good point. And in my experience of teaching and training and coaching people is that a lot of times the business side or the individual side, they haven't taken the time to get clear on their values themselves. I was once in a leadership training, and we were going to talk about the company values, and nobody could find them. They're like, where are they? Somewhere there. And even as an individual, that shows that there's research that shows that people who are clear on their own values, what's really important to them, come across as more confident, because they are more confident because they're more clear on what's really, the end of the day, that authenticity piece comes when you know that, say, compassion is more important than being competitive, or that competitive is more important than being, whatever it is. It's not that those are mutually exclusive, but I think when you, the business owner or business person or pitcher or professional, are clear on your own values, and that you give off that signal, like your reticular activating system filters out things that are not congruent. Nevertheless, of course, there's room for mistakes in that, but I do encourage everyone to, get clear on what are the values that are super important to you. Yeah,
We'll take a last question. Richard?
You see articles that talk about the problems of having enough talent in the Charleston area.
Yes.
What have you run into, and what are the big holes?
Charleston's filled with a lot of great people. College Charleston produces some really great marketing folks and really great customer care type people. Not necessarily like call center, but like dealing with enterprise accounts. We're expanding our customer care team here in Charleston to work alongside our innovation center, and have found some pretty talented people in that regard. Technology, I don't care where you are, it's negative unemployment if you are a JavaScript programmer or React, and that's, the negative becomes even bigger in certain areas. So that's sparse, and I don't think Charleston's unique in that way. And I do think for us, though, a lot of people are wanting to get out of the big metropolitan areas, and Charleston is an opportunity, and we kind of pitch it that way. It's like, hey, come down here, check it out. We just relocated a guy from Seattle. He was like kind of done with it, and it was cold and rainy. So it's like, come here. Thank goodness it wasn't August when it's humid and mosquitoes. But yeah. So, but he comes here now. He's like, wow, this is nice. I was like, yeah. Especially when it's like 65 degrees out. Like, and this is wintertime. But yeah, I haven't had any problem with that.
Yeah, I haven't had any problem either, and we're growing pretty rapidly, especially with the race. We're hiring people now, and like as an example, we have a marketing position open, and we have 250 resumes that came in like 3 or 4 days. And so the interesting thing about that, and I will be doing a blog post about it, so I can share it with the group.
That's good.
But a majority of those people are from outside of Charleston.
Yeah.
So like, of course, being in HR tech like we are, there's a lot of people that we can pull, right? So we have Benefit Focus, which is HR tech. We have Snag / People Matter. We have just a huge community around HR tech, which makes our job very, very easy to recruit people. But a majority of our candidates still come from Boston, New York, Seattle, places where it can be hard to work, and especially in tech, very competitive, and just people get burned out from it.
Do you use your own product when you're evaluating
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want world-class hires, so I'm going to use that.
Well, listen, I appreciate all of you coming up today. A great thank you to our panel today. So, I just got, while I was standing over here, I just got an email update from Centeo about they just updated the website, so you may want to go take a look at it this morning. So somebody's working while you're here. I also want to thank Merle and Ashley are here. I think this is, correctly wrong, this is the first Fridays y'all have attended. So Merle is the Deputy Director for Economic Development at Charleston County, and Ashley is the Director of Communications and Marketing. And they're a partner and sponsor for a lot of what we're doing today. They're supporting the race, along with Nina Sossman, who's here from Benefit Focus, along with David, who's from here from Avoxy, along with Comcast, who are sponsors of the I-5K. That registration's open, so something you guys should come out to. Even if you don't run, come out and drink some beer, basically, which is what I do. And so that's the second thing. And in terms of these topics, we're going to slightly sort of tweak the formula. Everything about moving over here was like, okay, what can we do better? So the next topic is going to be, I'm going to be interacting with Benefit Focus and Blackbaud to do a panel on customer success. What does it look like? So these are the two publicly traded companies that have big elements of customer success, and so that's going to be the next panel. Laura doesn't know this, but I'm going to start recruiting her to kind of curate this because it seems to work pretty well. And any thoughts, the presentations are always made live on Monday online, so you just go into the Charleston, go to website, community, and you'll see Fridays of the quarter right there. I would tell you this, that we constantly want to know from you as to what we can do better. I think many of you know I'm not a very politically correct guy, so feel free to say, this really sucked, this could be a whole lot better, that kind of thing. So we also are, we brought it online, and then I got sidetracked with the building, Charleston Pros. So this is something to support the economy with professionals who kind of work with you but not for you. So these are high quality folks you can kind of draw in, and we're looking at sort of a mentor network. I mean, everywhere I go, this is really what I have to appreciate about David. I hear that he mentors a lot of the entrepreneurs in town. He never mentions it, but basically I've talked to about 5 people who've said, listen, I spent some time with David and they really appreciate that he does that. So I appreciate you giving back to the community because that's really what it takes. So thanks again. Any input, feedback, just Fridays at Charleston Digital Board gets to us. And I don't know if you guys like if we're going to extend the sessions, you like the 8 o'clock versus 8:30? And look, we're at 9:26. We'll get you out of here at 9:30. So appreciate you coming out this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Ernest.